Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving, purpose-minded women who've written nonfiction books and want to amplify their message beyond the book. I'm a college professor, and when I'm not doing that, I am speaking, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women who have written books how to use their books to make a bigger difference, have more impact, and purpose. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here today and listening in. I hope you're having a good day, and I thank you for taking time out of all what you're doing to listen into the podcast. And today, I'm talking with Andrea MacKenzie. Now, let me tell you a little about Andrea. She is the founder of Lead with Harmony, where she is a leadership development expert who helps small business owners and executives hire, develop, and lead their teams toward higher performance, lower stress. I mean, who doesn't want lower stress? And stronger leadership. She brings over 20 years of experience in corporate roles and consulting that span across almost every business function and size, from small businesses to Fortune 500s. And she uses her unique approach to serving clients. She enjoys working with clients who aim for growth, and not just growth, but well-being for themselves and for those they hire, serve, and inspire. Welcome, Andrea MacKenzie.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Robin. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Let's jump right in. Okay, you heard me read you a little bit of an introduction, but why don't you tell us in your own words, first about who you are and then about the work you do?
Sure, absolutely. So you did a great job.
Thank you.
Helping my clients with their personal leadership and helping the people who work with them also bring out the best of themselves in terms of being strong leaders. At the end of the day, my biggest belief is that we're all leaders, right? We might all be great leaders or leading ourselves to the greatest thing or whatever that might be, but we all have that inside ourselves to take that responsibility and bring our best and bring our greatest contribution. So within the workplace, I mean, who doesn't want to work with great people? Who doesn't want to work with people that are bringing it every day? And so I think one of the biggest pieces of it is making sure people have the right people in the first place, making sure the hiring process is really solid, that you know who you are and what you need from somebody else, but then nurturing that relationship along the way and making sure that you're constantly an advocate for people's growth, for people's well-being, for people to grow into themselves, right? And in whether they stay with your business or not, that you're somebody who makes that impact on the people that you develop and that you hire.
Yes. So what made you come into this work?
Well, my background coming out of business school was in the consulting world. So a lot of, traditional operations and organizational improvement type of work where you're just working with so many different teams. And some of these companies were huge, Fortune 500 type of companies where you have teams that are interdepartmental at the client themselves, teams that are at the consulting firm. Sometimes you have other vendors, you have offshore, you have people. And so I think the thing that was really interesting for me in being sort of almost like a process improvement expert was the swim lanes in those processes. When you're mapping processes out and you're like, well, who's doing what and why? All of a sudden, it just becomes very clear that is a big piece of the puzzle. Who's doing what and why? And it's not just as simple as, well, here's what we need our process to be. It's like, who are these people? Again, who wants to work across teams and interdepartmental and with offshore and all these different things if you're like, you don't even know who these people are? You spend like half your waking life at work? Don't you want to enjoy it? Don't you want the people around you to be bringing their all that stuff? I mean, yeah. So it kind of was a natural progression for me and my purpose and what drives me to really start working with the people and helping the environment be more conducive to people getting things done and growing.
So you took your skills of working with processes and the people behind them and ventured out into your own business. Is that the way it happened?
Yeah. I mean, I went into business over 10 years ago now, mainly thinking that I would go into consulting, that again, kind of just continuing on with the same type of work, which I did. But what was interesting was that when I started my business, a good friend of mine was like, you need to talk to my business coach. And my first thought was, ugh. Like my eyes rolled. I was like, a coach? What is that? Just very sort of like, I don't know, right? Very skeptical of the whole thing. And it changed my life working with a coach. So I drank the Kool-Aid and became a coach myself, which I don't necessarily immediately call myself a coach because I know that eye roll thing in the back of people's minds, but learning the modality of how to really help people bring out their personal desires and to champion them to go for it and accelerate that. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you know how to do it. And now I combine, I think you said it in the intro, even just like it's kind of a unique approach because I combine all of these pieces, the coaching, the consulting, a little bit of training, workshopping, even mentorship at times, depending on who I'm working with. So just understanding how to switch between different points of view is kind of the where I've grown into my own, I guess, as a coach/consultant.
Yes. And so what lights you up the most as you think about all those ways and bringing all those pieces together and you're doing the work? What lights you up the most?
Oh, what lights me up the most? I think it's really kind of strange. What lights me up is lighting people up. Is when people all of a sudden see, oh, my vision is possible, or I'm limiting my vision. Oh, in opening that door, all of a sudden to it, there can be so much more. And that light bulb goes off and the excitement happens. And all of a sudden it starts to unfold in front of them because they're no longer shutting the door. They're no longer limiting their dream, essentially. I mean, that's what we start to do, I think, as we get older, is like, well, I'd really like to do this, but right, I don't know, and you start to just limit and shut yourself down. And so one of the things I work very hard on is opening that back up for people. And so, yeah, and usually there's something that lights up, and that's the exciting part. And I mean, that's what we all love about our own journeys with personal development, is when all of a sudden you have that, this is what I need to be doing. That's the fun stuff.
Yeah, I love those moments. Love those moments. Now, I think I read on your website somewhere you use this term conscious leadership.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that. What you mean by that?
Yeah. So consciousness, awareness, doing things with intention, with purpose. Okay. So conscious leadership, again, you can lead yourself anywhere you want. You can lead people anywhere you want, right? Like just saying that. But conscious leadership being something where you have that purpose and that direction, and that you're opening up the awareness to receptivity from other people, that there's something more. I mean, really the word is conscious, right? There's something more conscious, there's something more purposeful, right, to it than just, whatever has come before, or stories in the past, or again, this limiting belief stuff, right? It's really opening up awareness and also practice, right? It's like I'm a musician, right? If I don't play my instrument, I don't practice, it's going to start to degrade, right? I'm not going to be as good as I was a year ago, right? And so it's the same thing with leadership. It's practicing, making sure you're practicing, that you're listening, that you're not giving into immediate snap judgments, that you're constantly evaluating the thoughts that you're having and making sure they're aligned with what that vision and that purpose and all those things we talked about before. The thing that lights you up, is it going to get you there?
Yeah.
And or your team, right? So if you are a team leader, right, making sure that everybody who's working with you, that you're bringing that awareness out in them, that you're asking the questions, that you're taking the time to know people and what they want and what they know and what they do.
Yes. And it sounds like you have a lot of experience, a wealth of experience. And from your experience, what can you say to our listeners who are primarily women? I say primarily women and a few good men who are high achievers and authors who want to build a business from their book, or in the process of building a business from your book. From your experience, any part of your experience, what could you share with our listeners?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say my hat's off to you for being a writer and accomplishing a feat of actually finishing a book. It's not an easy process, and it takes a lot to give of yourself. And I just think it's just such an amazing thing to do. So anything I say that precludes it, right? I have the utmost respect and honor for people who finish a book. It's amazing. At the same time, what I know, or what I think I know from past metrics, is that, especially if you're a self-published author, I think the statistic that I read, and this was many years ago now, probably hasn't changed much, is something like about 80% of self-published authors don't make any more than like $1,000 a year on their book. So if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to build a business, understand that that book could be your single most important promotional material. Giving that book away could get you more than selling that book. Right? I've seen people do amazing things with giving their book away, making that part of what they're constantly putting out there. Whatever you wrote in that book, whatever you wrote in your book is probably so ingrained in you. It's such a strong point of view. Go out there and leverage it. What can you do? What can you create from it, right? What kind of courses, what kind of, I don't know, media? You could create a television series. You could create, there's so much more. And even though I know the book was this huge undertaking, probably, it's a stepping stone to so many more. It's just a beginning of what's possible with a book. So I think opening up the possibility of like, now this book could become, I don't know, a movie, a documentary. It could become the thing that you give away at every training that you do. It could be the framework for your training. There's so much there. That knowledge that you put in a book, there's so much more to give. Go out there and give that, and that's probably going to make you the money that you're looking for.
Yes. Building upon the message and the content in the book. Of course, I agree with that, because you probably don't know this, but I help people turn their books into courses. And so I agree wholeheartedly. Expand your message. All right.
Absolutely.
So now, the podcast is Leadership Purpose. And we talked about leadership. You and I agree that leadership is not just an official role. It could be however you lead yourself or others, right? But in terms of purpose, do you think it's important to have purpose in your work? And if so, why? If not, why not?
Yeah, I think I've used the word purpose a few times already. It's very important. Yeah. Again, going back to the first piece about everyone is a leader. I've seen some people who have very little authority in their lives sticking up for something they believe in, and it's beautiful, and that's leadership right there in and of itself, right? Speaking up despite the fact that you have no authority to do so, So, and we've all seen that. We've all witnessed that, I'm sure. But purpose, coming back to the idea of purpose being sort of the reason, the why you do something. And purpose sometimes gets this huge, massive, what is my life's purpose? That's tough. That's sure. If you've got that, great. I'm not knocking it. But, really just bringing it down to just simply your why. Yeah. And your why for anything you're doing in the course of a day, what's underneath it? What do you stand for? What do you not tolerate in life? What are your, again, going back to dreams, vision, what's the direction you're going in? If you're living without that, you're not leading yourself to the thing you want, because you don't know what it is, So I think ultimately, yeah, purpose is, even just on a day-to-day basis, like going to grab something to eat. There's a sense of purpose there. What is your purpose? Is it to have something that tastes great, or is it to get nutrition, or is it to sustain it, right? I know that sounds crazy, but like everything has an underlying reason. And to be, again, goes back to conscious leadership, to be conscious of that, be conscious of your direction, and why you're doing it, right? I'm using food as an example. Some people get up and go to their fridge 20 times a day because it's a habit that they're unconscious, so purpose is consciousness. I think in the end, they kind of are one and the same.
Yes. And of course, I agree wholeheartedly. Of course.
Well, this is easy.
You've been so generous with your experience and information. Is there something that I've not asked you that you want to share? And before we tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question in particular. I think just the sentiment that, if there's a lot of writers and authors out there listening, I just think keeping the faith around being your authentic self, keeping the faith around that end vision is going to be huge. You put yourself out there and you're going to get people that aren't happy with what you're saying. You're going to get, you're going to have critics and so on. And that's a good thing. It's very similar to when you try to attract clients, and when somebody clearly looks at you and goes, "You're not for me," then there's somebody out there that's clearly saying you are for me. And so that's basically, you put it out there, you've published it, it's out there now, you have a point of view. And I think really give yourself credit and pat yourself on the back and celebrate that. That's really it. And that's the message I would say. Again, I'm in awe of you. I don't have a book, so it's like, wow, just keep going.
Thank you for that. And you don't have a book, but you bring so much other experience and knowledge. And I'm sure there's somebody listening right now saying, how can I hear more? So if they want more from you, how can they be in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is leadwithharmony.com, and you can go on there. If you're in the position to hire someone right now, which I think is the greatest opportunity for growth in any business, there's a free job ad checklist that'll pop up, and you can grab that there. And if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I do a newsletter there. I am a writer in my own right on some level, short form. Check out my LinkedIn newsletter. I have a blog on my website as well. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram at Lead with Harmony. So that they're all there. And if I can make a sort of a special offer for the people in your group, if that's okay. Is that all right? Okay. So anybody out there who's thinking about the growth in their business and thinking about creating a team for themselves, I have an audio. And again, I mentioned I'm a musician. I love audio. I love listening to things to get me inspired. So I have a delegation visualization, and it's all about getting in the mindset of being a master delegator. And if anybody's in that place where they kind of want to explore that and get into that mindset, go to delegationvisualization.com, and you will get it for free if you enter the code PURPOSE.
Love
just
it.
for your listeners.
Love
Purpose.
it. Thank you. That's a generous offer. Really appreciate you for sharing that and all that you shared here today. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for being here, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone. And if you want more from me, you can go to my website, robinlowens.com, robinlowens.com. Or if you're on social media, pick your favorite site and reach me at Robin L. Owens, PhD, Robin L. Owens, PhD. And if you happen to be an author and you want to grow your business in the way that we've been talking about here, and you want to turn your book into what I call a masterful course, head on over to my site, createmasterfulcourses.com, createmasterfulcourses.com, and get your free training on how to turn your book into a masterful course. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Dr. Robin signing off. See you next time.